Good morning, good morning, good morning. I don't know if it's morning where you are, but it's morning where I am. Welcome to Eating Emotionally Well. And today I was summoned to do a not quick, but more of an in-depth video for my group of persons that is doing my program, specifically geared towards fasting for weight loss. And not just fasting for weight loss, but specifically for fat loss and metabolic health. So, for those of you that may not know me, my name is Shay King. I'm a nutritionist as well as a nutrition coach. And over the last 7 years, my goals as a coach was really not just to get people to release weight, but to get them to keep the release weight off, one. And then, secondly, is to get them to recognize the connection between their weight loss and nutrition and how it all ties in together. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today to my group of persons. I have about 25 persons that are now in a 21-day program. And for those of you that know me, whenever I do any types of programs, I do it in most cases around 21 days. And why? Because, it takes that 21 days to help you to form new habits. And it's enough time to be consistent in a direction to help you to start to reverse your health. So, this video today, specifically for my group fasting for weight loss, but specifically about fat as well as metabolic health. And so thank you guys for joining me. Now, when we look at fat loss, that's kind of self-explanatory. Fat loss is really reducing your body percentage fat, overall fat. And there's a number of ways you can measure that, but you definitely want to connect yourself with a nutritionist, a dietitian, your medical professional to help you to figure out what your body fat percentage is. And so when you look at fat loss, the reduction is what you're looking at to get into your ideal health. Now, not only fat loss, this fasting for weight loss protocol addresses, but also metabolic health. Now, when we think about metabolic health is really defined by having ideal blood sugar levels, ideal triglyceride numbers, and your HDL, that's your high density lipoprotein, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, and also your waist circumference. And that's without using medication. And then you're considered to have the ideal metabolic health. Now, because most of the people that I know, even in a casual setting and my clients, they are controlling some of the things I just described with medication, whether it's their blood sugar, um, diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, your overall triglyceride. People are controlling this with medication, but in order to use fasting as a tool to get you to improve your metabolic health overall. Without medication, there's a specific way that you fast, and it takes a period of time. It just does not happen overnight. What I can share with you quickly with with my stories, I did not have um, a weight issue in terms of being overweight. One of my major issues is I overdid sugar, and yeah, believe it or not just added sugar, because it was very little added sugar. Um, it was more from overdoing of fruit sugar. And what I recognized just over the years that there is a difference on how glucose respond to your body as well as fructose. And I found out the culprit and where I was going wrong with the consumption of sugar. And then additionally, one of the things that I've learned when it comes to fasting for weight loss, specifically for fat loss and improving your overall metabolic health, is that how you start your eating is key to improving your metabolic health and reducing overall body fat. And so today's video is what we're going to talk about when we talk about fasting for weight loss. And so we're going to talk specifically for the metabolic health as well as fat loss, but I'm also going to share with you how I fast personally and how I fast with the group of person that I'm fasting with. And so let's begin with the first tip. Um, so one of the first things I want to say is that for the majority of my clients, they are 50 plus. I want to say, well, no, let me not say the majority of them are 50 plus, but I want to go a little low and say the majority of my clients are 40 plus. I want to say at least 75% of the clients that I have now that I'm working with nutritionally are the ages of 40 and over. And I'm alluding to that specifically, and here's why. Because when we think about weight loss, fat loss, and metabolic health, when you are 40 plus, there are some things that you have to do differently. I promise you, it's not the same thing when you are in your 20s and 30s, for that matter, when it comes to addressing overall weight loss and fat loss and metabolic health. And so, because the majority of people that I work with are 40 plus, there are some things that I know that we have to change differently. And I want to share this quick story with you. One of my clients actually said to me, um, she said to me that my phone is ringing. And you know, it's always when I'm recording something. It's always when I recording something, the phone rings, right? But I want to share this quick story with you. One of my clients said to me, she said, "Shay, I'm going to be at work. And we were talking about having your first meal, you know, your breakfast meal." And what she didn't understand, because I was tying in her breakfast to an intermittent fasting window, she said, "Well, then I'm not going to eat breakfast." So she says, "Apparently, I'm going to have lunch because I have to eat at a certain time because of my work schedule." But what I was able to explain to her was this: we have been accustomed so much for the wording breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We don't really recognize and understand truly that when we break our fast, which is considered breakfast, that is just when we eat our first meal. And when it doesn't matter if that first meal is 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m., or 2 p.m., that is still considered your breakfast, which you are breaking your fast with that meal. And so once I was able to explain that to her, she fully understood, oh, all right, so it's when I have my first meal. I can have my first meal at 12 noon. And so even just simple things, I'm saying this quick story because there are simple things we have to understand or connect the dots to the concept that will help us in our continuing to not only just to release the weight, but to maintain the weight loss once we've come off one of my 21-day programs. So I just wanted to throw that in there quickly. And so, sorry about that. The phone just rings. So, the gold is when we're fasting. Now, let me say this before I say the gold. Because we discussed the gold a minute ago. One of the things culturally from me and my clients is that we have adapted, and I want to say adapted because culturally, um, people in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, we have this thing that when we don't eat something hot, we have a tendency to get gas. And so, for any person throughout the Caribbean watching me, listening to this video, will can identify with that. And so for years, I have been teaching my clients about how, when you're fasting, you're really allowing the body to take a break from traditional food and rest so the body can kind of start to repair some of the metabolic issues and heal and also reduce body fat. And so um, when we started with intermittent fasting, and then we graduated ourselves all the way up to 48-hour fasting, a minimum of 48 hours. And here's why: because the majority of my clients had metabolic health issues. Either they were controlling them with medication, or they had a significant amount of fat on the body, or they had problems just keeping the weight off. And so I recognized if you were 40 plus, I needed to started to introduce to you the whole modality and the idea around fasting. But one of those things I had to debunk was not eating, and how not eating can actually help you to reverse those conditions, make you feel better, and of course, help you to reduce body fat because we were just so accustomed to eating. I remember this client saying to me, even though his doctor had referred him to a nutritionist, he said to me, he says, I have to eat because I have to take my medication. And so, one of the things that I had introduced my clients to was CMOS. And here's why, because a lot of my clients in the beginning was very skeptical with eating, taking their medication without eating it on an empty stomach. And so I had to introduce the concept of CMOS for helping them to coat the stomach and also putting something in the body where they felt comfortable enough to take their medication while they was fasting. Because in the beginning, depending on my client, it is important that we transition. And even though for some of these clients, they want to reduce their medication, one of the things I teach them and I tell them it is not responsible um, to just stop taking your medication no matter how you feel. You have to continue the relationship with your healthcare provider as well as myself as the nutritionist to eventually gradually get you off of the medication and get you at a place where you are metabolically healthy. And so that took a transition. And so introducing CMOS to my client as a part of eating while we're fasting was truly important to me. So for those of you that may not know what CMOS is, so let me pause right here and kind of segue and just tell you a little bit about CMOS. Now, first of all, I myself have been using CMOS for at least 25 years. I attribute a lot of the things that I have done in conjunction with fasting, and detoxing and cleansing, whole body cleansing, to CMOS because there is so much benefits to CMOS. And when we look at CMOS, first of all, let me just say that it is a plant food, right? So right off the back, there's a benefit. It's a plant food and it is out of the ocean. Now, I'm talking specifically about wild harvested sea moss. And why I'm saying it, because, with anything in nature, if you can get to, I call it contaminate, find a way to get it to grow in uh, uh, what they call raised environments like pool grown or that you have people doing that. But I'm speaking specifically to wild harvested sea moss because I also manufacture sea moss products and I have at least 40 sea moss products. And one of the things for me that is super important that I'm using a wild harvested sea moss because for those of you that know me, know whenever I talk about a finished product, a product that is ended finished, it's only as good as its ingredients. So when people talk to me about Shay, how come your sea moss tastes different? It's because I make sure the ingredients in the overall product is you start from scratch. It's a healthy one. It's organic or it's wild harvested, and so that's what's important to me. Now, when you look at sea moss and the profile, because sea moss provides about 92 to 94 essential minerals that is required for optimum health, when you think of the immediate benefits, it's extremely rich in antioxidants. Um, and why I used sea moss in conjunction with my protocol when I was fasting because my body was inflamed. And sea moss is considered anti-inflammatory. The properties in sea moss is anti-inflammatory. So if you're talking about an inflamed body where you have pain in the pain over the body or even the joints, sea moss is definitely the food you want to incorporate, even outside of fasting. Additionally, CMOS actually helps to neutralize free radicals. And free radicals can cause damage to the cells. Um, and CMOS can actually help to build healthy muscles. And in addition to that, now that I'm exercising grounding again, it also provides energy during exercise, especially if you're not eating traditional food. And so for me, CMOS is considered the perfect plant superfood. And you're using CMOS as a part of a whole healthy eating lifestyle. And this is how you are able to improve your metabolic health in reversing chronic conditions, also detoxing, um, again, removing mucus from the body, and just to mention a few stuff. So when you look at it, CMOS, in my opinion, is considered, and a lot of my colleagues' opinion as well, that sea moss is considered the perfect weight loss food, and it's an adaptogenic food as well. And so when you look at the whole idea of sea moss being an adaptogenic food, what that really simply means in layman's term is that sea moss will adapt to whoever is taking it. And so if I'm taking it as a part of detoxing, it'll work. If I'm taking it as a part of weight loss, it'll work. But if you're taking it as a part of removing mucus out of your body or reducing inflammation or helping you to reverse chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension, it'll actually work. Now, in addition to my CMOS product, I want to take a moment here too. I've also paired my CMOS, which is considered a superfood because of all of the essential minerals in it, as well as it's a high fiber food and high in prebiotics, which is a gut nutrient to help to restore gut health as well. Sea moss is one of those things that will also help to satiate and to give you the feeling if you're eating while you are fasting, and especially if you are on medication. And so this is why I include CMOS in fasting, particularly for my clients, because we're in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, and we are just so accustomed that when we're taking medication that we have to eat something to coat your stomach. And I was there too when I started in the beginning of my journey. Today, I'm grateful for my journey and leading by example because I don't take any medication at all for any of those conditions, but I do fast very, very often. As a matter of fact, I fast every week, and I also fast with CMOS because of the electrolytes as well as the essential minerals that CMOS provides while you're fasting. And it also helps to help you to feel satiated. And it's also a mental component. As also it also helps with withdrawal symptoms when you're transitioning, coming off of having so much sugar during fasting. And so for us, I definitely include CMOS as a part of the fasting journey. And so when we look at the whole landscape of fasting, it is definitely one of those things that you have to incorporate in your life, especially if you are 40 plus. And I want to pause here to talk specifically to women that are going through menopause and men that are dealing with andropause. So let me first say, every woman goes through menopause, and not because you don't have a specific symptom that you see maybe one of your friends or coworkers or colleagues have, that you feel like you're not going through menopause. I want to tell you, women. And while I'm here, I'm going to share a quick story, right? So we were at a girlfriend's birthday party, and of course, whenever I'm in the group of girlfriends and and things come up, they always kind of lend to me for expert advice. And so we were in the group, and I can't remember how it came up, but the conversation came up with menopause. And so, I said, yeah, boy, we all are going to go through it. So one of the ladies there, she said, no, I don't have menopausal symptoms. So I said, yeah, we all go through menopause. Oh, I'm not going through menopause. And so now the particular girl that I was talking about, first of all of the women at the event except one was 50 plus. And so, based on research, scientific research, we know that women can go through menopause as early as 42. But when you are at least 50 plus, and all of it is the transition and the onset of the reduction of the sex hormones, where the body is releasing them, like the estrogen and the progesterone and the testosterone. And so the body starts to have these types of symptoms. Now, my research over the last 7 years, before I started my free support group for women and men that go through menopause, and I'm going to put that on the screen there. So, and if you want to go into that group where we share tools and tips free, it's a Facebook group for these grouping of women and men. Feel free to go into that there. What I can tell you is this: every woman and man will go through menopause. However, their symptoms may be differently. It's just like childbirth. I have four daughters and I have one son. And so what I can tell you is the symptoms that I experienced with my daughters, I did not experience with my son during pregnancy. Did I still have my son? Was I still pregnant? Yes. And so, in layman's term, that is an idea of what menopause could look like. The experience is different, right? And some people don't have all of the symptoms. As a matter of fact, I have a girlfriend, I think she turned 60 just the other day, and she's still dealing with a little bit of hot flashes. And so, I can tell you, ladies, particularly, we all go through it. So let me get back quickly to the story now. So she started to get a little bit what we refer to as hot under the collar, where she said, "No, I don't go through menopause. I'm not going through menopause, what I'm telling you." And so she became a little bit irate, I would say. And then all of the ladies look at one another, and I said, "Yeah, one of the symptoms of menopause is irritability, anxiety." And so she kind of quieted herself down, and then we all kind of leaned away from her because we realized she was having one of those um, irritable anxiety attack moments, and that is real. I made fun of it at that moment just for the sake of the story, but I promise you, ladies, it's not funny at all, because when you look at the symptoms that are associated with menopause, OMG. I have one of my cards here. It's right here that I'm going to read this off. So, and this is the group here, Good Girls Gone Menopause. I don't know if you guys can see that. Good Girls. Yeah, because we're on the other side of the camera. I need to switch my camera. So, anyway, but yeah, so let me just share some of the symptoms with you, right? So, brain fog is one of the symptoms associated with menopause. Difficulty concentrating, irritability, mood swings, yes, anxiety, depression, night sweats, which we're familiar with, brittle nails, joint pain, loss of libido, of course, irregular cycles, because when you start the onset, which is considered perimenopause, that's when you find the irregular periods. And that can go from, listen, to having 2 to 3 days of spotting to having your menstruation for a full month nonstop. And so it literally can fluctuate on what irregular looks like for some women. Fatigue is also one of them. You also have electrical shocks like nerve shocks. Um, the list goes on and on. You can have dryness in the vagina. You can have painful sex. You can have palpitations, like the regular heartbeats almost feels like you're having a heart attack. I remember my sister-in-law, we share the story all the time. That when she first started her journey, I was there helping her with that because I took her with her to the hospital to do the EKG and all of the heart monitoring tests because she felt like she was having a heart attack. And I remember saying to her, I think on 6 separate occasions, Patrice, you are, well, yeah, I didn't, yeah, her name was Patrice. You are going through menopause. It's palpitations until finally she said to me, I think, and this was maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years later, she said to me, Shay, I recognize it now. Yes. And so palpitation is real. And you feel like you're having a heart attack, but all of these are signs of menopause. But this is not about menopause. So I have my group called Good Girls Gone Menopause. If you want to be in that group, just go in there, and I'll accept you into the group. It's a free group, but we dive in deeper more about menopause. So, and just wrapping up for those of you that may be coming in. Today, I'm talking specifically to my clients that are in my Fasting for Weight Loss group. And this video was all about fasting for weight loss, specifically for fat loss and metabolic health, and how you can fast for a minimum of 48 hours using CMOS. And another thing that I use, pink salt. This is my container here of pink salt as well. And I just sometimes take this and put it right under the tongue, and then I add a little bit of my sea moss gel. I happen to like the apple cider vinegar. A lot of people like the burn fat because they're releasing weight as well. Then I have the turmeric and ginger. Then I have the sour sop. Um, I've got a lot of flavors. I have the spice fusion as well. The spice fusion a lot of people love because that also has other ingredients like cardamom and anise to help with reducing your sugar levels as well while you're fasting. And we do it a little bit differently when we're fasting, but the goal is for us to fast a minimum of 24 hours. And so, what I'm going to share with you now is how that actually looks and just how we come off of it while we're fasting for weight loss for a minimum of 48 hours. So, one of the first things we do when we start our fasting protocol is we usually would start on a Monday. And so, one of the things I encourage my clients to do that are on the protocol is on Saturday and Sunday, you do your best to get fat adapted. And what that looks like is you want to reduce your refined carbs to almost nil and be getting your carbs from a whole carb like a sweet potato. That's what I encourage you to do along with the eating program before you start. So when we start on a Monday, so what we essentially do is we end our last meal on Sunday, and that meal is a extremely low carb meal. Now, like there is a little bit of carbs in cauliflower, for instance, or sweet potato, if you will. There's a lot more carb in that, but less. But that is considered a vegetable carb and a complete whole carb and not refined. So, what I encourage my clients to do specifically is if you are going to have any sweet or maybe a higher carb food grouping, you want to eat that earlier on the Sunday rather than later. And we want to complete all of our meals on the Sunday by 8 p.m. So that's the first thing I encourage you to do. So this is the place now where you get your pen and paper to write down these tips because we're going to dive in a little bit into the tips about how we fast for weight loss and specifically for fat loss as well as reversing metabolic health. So that's the first thing we do on a Sunday. We end eating by 8 p.m. and we reduce the Saturday and Sunday our carbs. And by Friday is when we've finished our last refined carb because we'll start the fasting process on a Monday. Now, today I am fasting. Whenever I record, I usually record on a Monday. So I am fasting today, but we're going to fast for a minimum of 48 hours. But here's how you sneak in the extra hours and how these extra hours will benefit you, particularly if you're reversing metabolic conditions as well as you want to reduce body fat. So we end on a Sunday. Um, at 8 p.m. when we're eating. And so all Monday, we're just drinking mostly water. So even though we're incorporating sea moss and a little bit of apple cider, not apple cider vinegar, sorry, a little bit of pink salt, um, one of the things we apologize for that. One of the things we are mindful of is we're fasting. And fasting really means when you're allowing the body to rest from traditional food or even no food at all. But in this case, we're fasting with water, sea moss, and I use some pink salt. So that's what this video is all about, how we're talking about fasting with sea moss. Now, on a Monday, we're drinking water all day. Now, I like to say have your water however you want to have it. If you want to have room temperature water, cold water, hot water, it's really up to you. But the goal while you're fasting is to minimize any other outside food influence. Now, here's how it's a little bit different for my group. For anyone that is in my group and is fasting with me and that is on medication for any of the things that I kind of mentioned earlier, let me kind of go over it for those of you might just be joining me. Any of those chronic uh, issues like diabetes or hypertension. Um, let's say that you're dealing with inflammatory issues, you got joint pain, you got gut issues, you're even dealing with constipation, and you're on medication for what any of those conditions. When you're about to take your medication, you want to take a tablespoon of sea moss. Now, there are A few of my gels I recommend you not to use when fasting, but 90% of the gels you can actually use when you're fasting. Okay. And it's just really depending on where your weight is now and if you have additional weight to to release as well. Now remember this video, you can definitely benefit from it even if you're not in my fasting for weight loss group, but anything specific outside of what I'm talking about now is what I actually speak to my clients with one-on-one that is in the fasting for weight loss group. And so I like to use the apple cider vinegar myself, particularly. I used to use the burn fat a lot. I'm not using that as much anymore because I really don't want to release any weight. For me, this is all about continuing my metabolic health, helping me to minimize and keep those symptoms minimized while I am going through my menopause journey, as well as giving my organs a rest just to help. And it's anti aging for me as well. Even though we're not specifically talking about anti aging, fasting also assists and helps with that. I'm going to do a video talking about all the benefits because I can tell you when it comes to anti-aging, I don't even pretend that's where you see a lot of my benefits come from, but we're not talking about today. We're talking about fasting for weight loss, fasting for fat loss, and specifically metabolic health. And so we're fasting all day Monday. We're drinking water. Now, what I like to do and encourage my clients that are in the group, if you are going to incorporate the CMOS, I like to do it within even a time frame window. So when I incorporate my CMOS while I'm fasting during the day, I incorporate my CMOS between 12 noon and 4 p.m. And so again, you drink the sea moss as often as you need to during that window, depending on your weight. So just for sake of the video, I want to say about 140 pounds. That's my average weight. Sometimes I teeter between 135 and 140. So for the sake of the video, let's say 140 pounds, right? Now, let me just say, sometimes I will take a little more, and that's just because I, I love CMOS. I'm a CMOS girl. I know the benefits, and I play with it a little bit. So if you're around that weight, there is no need to take CMOS than twice a day. Really, ideally, just once a day, a full tablespoon, well, a full 2 tablespoons once a day, right? Ideally at my weight. If you are 180 pounds, 2 tablespoons, and you can take the 2 tablespoons at one time, or you could divide it. Or if you are over 180 pounds, let's say you at that 200 pounds, I would recommend you do at least 4 tablespoons a day. Now, you don't necessarily have to do 4 times. You can do 2 tablespoons in one set of CMOS tea and 2 tablespoons and another set of CMOS tea. It's really up to you. But ideally, you want to do at least 4 tablespoons full. And let me just plug this in. If you have chronic mucus, you definitely want to do that 4 tablespoons full. If you have chronic joint pains, constipation, gut issues, the body needs to balance that pre and probiotic in the gut, you definitely want to do 4 tablespoons. If you are considered extremely overweight or obese, you definitely want to do 4 tablespoons. And so this is how we separate in the group where we may do things slightly different on the fasting days as it relates to the CMOS. Now, if you're taking medication and let's say you've already taken 4 tablespoons of CMOS for the day within that 4 to 6 hour window to take your teas, um, throw in some pink salt under the tongue. I just said it earlier. Or you can do this specific CMOS gel here. All right, so that's this one right here. This is the burn fat one. Now, while because of the ingredients in it, it also helps to reduce inflammation. And, once you reduce inflammation, you reduce joint pain. This particular formula here will help you with your appetite. So you're going to feel, in addition to what's in this particular CMOS formula, you're going to feel not as hungry. If you're new to fasting, you want to fast with this particular product here because it is literally going to help you with your appetite and all of the other ingredients in it. It has lemon. It has 2 types of CMOS. This product is also available. I just wanted to to throw that out there, and especially if you have a significant amount of weight to lose. Now, if you have inflammation and joint pains, but you don't necessarily have a significant amount of weight to lose, but you have the inflammation in the body, this is the sea moss that I use in addition to the apple cider vinegar one. This one right here. This is the one that I use, and this one right here. These are the two that I use because, I don't have to like release the weight. I do have my body fat percentage that I'm working on to reduce and to increase my muscle ratio. But inflammation, and this is me. I don't have arthritis, but I do have inflammation, and that's because sometimes when I go to my diet, I do too much sugar. Yeah. And so, we all have our journey and our devils that we're dealing with. And so during the fasting time, all Monday we're fasting, and then there's a small window where we open up where we're eating. When I say eating now, we're talking specifically about sea moss in our tea. I have my tea right here as well. And we do that again on Tuesday. Now, if you look at the clock, yes, we say a minimum of 24 hours. If you start Sunday at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., that's when you end. You go to Monday at 8 p.m., that's the first 24 hours. And then you go to Tuesday at 8 p.m., that's the second 24 hours. Now, in my group, we do a minimum of 24 hours because we're fasting to reverse metabolic health, to improve the metabolic conditions so we can become metabolically healthy, and we're fasting to reduce body fat overall. So our body is shaped. We look better as males and female. Even as the males, if you have that extended ab, you definitely want to be fasting for weight loss because this particular protocol actually helps with reducing body fat and shaping your body overall. And so when you look at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, 8 p.m. that evening, we've actually completed 24 hours. But here's what we do differently. We don't have our first meal until 12 noon of the following day, which is Wednesday. So we have easily have gotten in there 36 hours. I want someone to calculate that for me. Let me see exactly how much hours that is. All right. You know what? It's funny that I've never really even thought about calculating it. But when you think 24 to 24, which is 48 hours, and we end at 8 p.m., then we go, let's say from 8 to 8, that's another 12 hours. And then the 4 hours to get to 12, that would be 64 hours. Now, this video isn't specifically talking about what happens to the body during the fasting and how the body can benefit. We're specifically talking about metabolic health and fat loss. What I'm here to tell you is if you want to reduce body fat, if you want to have a guided program that's going to help you to reduce your medication to get metabolically healthy, one of the things I shared in the beginning of the video, what good metabolic health should look like without medication, and that's it right there, because your sugars numbers can be controlled, your pressure numbers could be controlled, but metabolically you are not considered healthy. Why? Because they're being controlled with medication. And so the goal with my fasting for weight loss program is to get you metabolically healthy without medication, and also to reduce body fat, which most of us need, including me. And so thank you so much for joining me. I wanted this video to be long, a little lengthy, but not for a full hour. Again, I'm nutritionist and nutrition coach Shay King, and the goal from me is to get my clients not just to release the weight, but to keep it off, to share a little bit about what we're doing in my group programs. If you're interested in being a part of the group program, you just reach out to me. My numbers are 801-4885 or 820-3304, and we'll definitely get you started. Our groups are definitely support guided. We also provide your guide with what you're going to be eating in the days, what you will be allowed to eat for the 21 days in this program. And the fasting days would just be Monday and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday. So it's a minimum of 24 hours. I just described you how it looks, and that's how it looks every week. So if you have chronic conditions going on, If you are on medication and it's safe for you after we've done a consultation to start this program, please reach out to me because what I recognize is the percentages of us, especially in the Bahamas and throughout the Caribbean and even the world, here locally in my country, our rate is at an alarming 60%, 60 plus percent of persons that are considered obese with chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension and that are on medication. And this number actually includes children. And so if we don't look at a lifestyle nutritionally to reverse these chronic conditions, including fasting, we are definitely not on the right trajectory. And so I just wanted to reach out to do this video and just kind of give you an idea of what fasting can look like. Fasting, yes, can be very daunting in the beginning. And so this is why I encourage you not to fast on your own. You definitely want to fast with someone that knows and understand how the body works, especially if you're on medication. Um, so you can get the best results from fasting. I want to tell you this quick little story. I remember one of my clients when she came to me the first time, she said, "Oh, I'm doing intermittent fasting. I'm only eating 8 hours out of the day." And once she explained to me what she was consuming, I had to gracefully let her down and say to you, no, you're eating more than 8 hours a day. And because she didn't understand that there were some things that can actually take you completely out of your fasting um, mode, and the body will recognize that as a food that it needed to stop and to break down, especially, and the liver needed to do the work. And so sometimes we get a lot of information, but we don't necessarily apply it correctly depending on what we're dealing with personally. And this is why it's so important. If you want to reverse metabolic health, you want to become metabolically healthy. And what that simply means is have these ideal numbers without using medication. Reach out to me because we have a fasting support group that we're doing it. It's a minimum of 21 days. You don't have to worry about thinking about what you're going to have to eat and all that. We give you a structured, guided program where you are fasting specifically for fat loss as well as reversing metabolic health or just to become metabolically healthy. And so I'm signing out right now. I would definitely drop some information in the links below where you can continue to reach out to me. Again, I thank you so much for the opportunity to always lead by example because people ask me all the time, Shay, do you do your own programs? You know, I just want to take a moment to say to me, to say to you guys, and just putting all that vein on the other side, it's just so important to me, especially now, because the world has shifted. People are dying at 30. People are dying so young. And yes, some of these things are chronic diseases which can easily be reversed through exercise, nutrition, lifestyle, meditation, grounding, fasting, all of these modalities that I use in conjunction with my protocol to stay healthy. And for me, it was super important that I lead by example because I recognize that women and men out there, they need a role model. They need someone who is doing what they're asking you to do and they can see the results on them. And so for me, that's why I continue to do what it is that I do and to lead by example. And it's just not a good feeling when you're not feeling healthy because when I am not well, um, let me tell you, I did a video, I can't remember how long ago that was when I talked about when I did my 7 day fast for the first time in just water. And that was because I was not feeling well. I had this pain and I went to my doctor, did blood work, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And so I said, okay, Shay, you know what you have to do. You have to give your body an opportunity to heal whatever is happening on the inside, what blood work and all of these other tests can't seem to see, but you know how your body feels. I buckled down. And that was the beginning of me when I did my first 7 day water fast. And I can tell you, if that video is still available, just go ahead and watch it because it's a powerful video. I pretty much was able to get my body 100% back on track just from doing that 7 day water fast. But this fasting for weight loss group is not that extreme. But I do have clients where I do in house wellness weekends. I call it a wellness week, where I am your coach and support um, for the entire duration of the program. So just wanted to put that out there as well. Again, I'm nutritionist and nutrition coach Shay King, signing out and saying hello and I love you all to my group that is fasting for weight loss with me. Thank you for joining me.